Thank you, Shilpa, for this warm introduction, perhaps a little exaggerated maybe. And I thank Arista Foundation for inviting me here today to speak on the very important occasion of the National Symposium on Elder Psychological Wellbeing 2024. I call it Gross National Happiness and the Silver Dividend. India's 60-plus population is not a problem to be solved. It is a treasure trove of wisdom, experience, and resilience that we must cherish and support in our journey. Today, they are 150 million strong. By 2030, they will be 195 million, and by 2050, they will be 348 million. This asset can eat a silver dividend in the form of GDP and what I call gross national happiness growth. Our elderly population is not homogeneous. They come from diverse income strata and age segments, each with unique needs and challenges that require our understanding and support. I am giving these figures not because you don't have access for them or it's not known to you. They're all on public domain. But just to make the point that it's a huge demographic dividend that we should not ever ignore. About 40% of them belong to the unprivileged class, have led a hard life, are in failing health, have little or no savings or pension, and become the sole responsibilities totally dependent on their children and their families who themselves have little financial leeway. This segment of older people needs focused government aid in the form of senior homes that shelter them, give them sustenance, healthcare, company, and where responsible, work that utilizes their skills and talents. The government currently has several programs for healthcare and the elderly. We know the PHCE, the Atal Vayo Abhyudaya Yojana to care for needy elders. Civil society and NGOs could engage more with the government to plan and nurture a chain of senior homes across. Attached to these senior homes could be hospices which can provide end-of-life care. These senior homes and hospices can be run as private-public partnerships with corporations contributing from their mandatory community service budgets. The point is, the entire ecosystem needs to sensitize and gear up for elderly care. In the case of 60% of elders coming from the middle-affluent classes, in an upwardly mobile society, it's not financial wants alone, but psychological and emotional needs in the form of loneliness, an increasing lack of empathy from the rest of society, and a consequent loss of self-worth. Market forces are creating specialized healthcare and assisted living facilities at various price points to meet the needs of the middle class and the affluent segments. But beyond that, they suffer from a sense of isolation as children move away, often to a new geography for economic pursuits, and that's inevitable in a globally competitive world. They become absorbed in their own families. Their loneliness is combined with a creeping loss of self-worth as downshift from active careers to first semi and then full retirement, and their social circle shrinks too. In the US, as you might know, such seniors have created and nurtured an antidote to loneliness and loss of self-worth. An influential association called the American Association of Retired Persons, AARP, provides American seniors with a powerful political and lobbying platform with the government to combat ageism in society. AARP is also a community club that offers companionship and a sense of kinship to tackling loneliness. It acts as a marketplace for seniors' skills and experience, thus bolstering their self-worth. Admits members at the age of 50, which has two advantages. It gets a cohort of members in their 50s who are at the height of their powers to aid the association in meeting its objectives. It also prepares these members for life in the 60s and beyond. An association of Indian seniors on the line of AARP say Indian Association of Senior Persons could be the central node that releases a whole ecosystem of initiatives to combat loneliness and erosion of self-worth, lead to a substantial contribution to both GDP and gross national happiness. ISP could lobby with the government to mandate improved financial services for seniors in banking, investments, and finance. However, at the end of all this, I believe it must start at the level of the individual. The key point to address is the eroding empathy levels between the elders and the younger generations, a symptom of postmodern societies' increasing atomization and alienation. India's seniors are as much India's strength as its young, and we speak a lot about our youth demographic dividend. If we nurture this, That would be reaping our demographic dividend whilst also enhancing the strength of our socio-cultural fabric. Somewhere along the way, in our pursuit of independent thought and living, in the greed for betterment, in the temptation to rise higher, we have diluted our core values of respect and regard for age. In our tradition, the elderly are given the deepest respect at any family function and prayer ceremony. Their blessing is crucial to the health and happiness of the young. Their hand raised in warm support, their eyes proud in the success of their children, all regarded as the mark of a perfect, good, traditional Indian happy family. I think it's very important to maintain these time values in an era where we are galloping ahead for ambition. At least these values should be timeless. I believe it's a question of responsibility. I think it's important to take responsibility for our elders and to stay accountable to their well-being. It's a little more than just the emotional age. They have immense wisdom and experience. There is, I quote, "Assuredly nothing dearer to a man than wisdom, and though age takes away all else, it undoubtedly brings us that," as Cicero rightly said. They will only share it with you with love and honesty, wanting nothing but the best for their children. We may think we don't need them and only they need us, but trust me, we need them. We are ignoring a very vital constituent factor of our growth and success if we disregard the advice and love of elders and their continued wisdom and continued presence in our lives. For humanity to stay human, I believe we need to be sensitized to the needs of those older to us. Remember, we held their hands for very long, even much after we walked and ran. Sometimes until we ourselves had the first grey hair. Today, they need to hold your hand, lean a little bit on you. I am really amazed at the resilience and resolve of our elderly. They're trying to stay relevant. They're trying to stay as independent as they can. They're learning to drive at the age of 75. They're working on the internet. They find their sources of information from the net. They're surfing the net. They have their computers. And they're also, very importantly, working hard to manage their expectations. And in fact, it is them today who offer support to the younger ones. We must remember that one day, sooner than you think, we will all get there. In the rush of the present, in the accolades and the ecstasy of success, it might slip your mind that you too will age. We will grey and wrinkle, the knees will hurt a bit, suddenly you will trip when you walk. You haven't really seen that next stone too clearly, have you? And that's when you will feel the fear of aging. It's very important to set an example for little children. When they see you give care and respect to the elders, they will do to you too when you age. Children follow what they see in the home. They imbibe the values of the family. This empathy for the old requires a lot of patience. I now find amongst the young today, there is an immense sense of impatience. It's all instant gratification. That sense of impatience has to be diluted just a little bit if you have to express your care for the elders, because that needs a lot of patience. It needs emotional agility. It needs higher EQ. Show in every little way that you care. Reach out, even if just for that moment that matters. You will get a billion blessings and continuous boundless love. And the strength that comes from knowing you are doing them right, while the elderly stay secure in the knowledge of being loved. Most importantly, it will increase the happiness quotient of our seniors, and along with it, the happiness quotient of their children and grandchildren who feel they have stayed accountable and responsible. Increasing gross national happiness, therefore, forms a virtuous cycle with increasing the country's gross domestic product. An article in the New York Times, I close, says, social science tends to define old people by their disabilities, but people don't define themselves that way. Thank you. And to all the older members of my audience, a very respectful namaskar. And I think that's where it starts from, that at every encounter, at every interaction, if you and me can start with even showing symbolic forms of respect, it will remind you that in every action and every deed, you must imbibe and remember that sense of respect. And I also wanted to add one thing which I didn't write down because it's just been very rushed for time last few days. When you have very old people in your family, somewhere along their journey, you will see that only one is left. In my case, it happened very early. It happened when I was 57. Hopefully, in the case of my older generation, my parents, my uncles and aunts who are older to me, I hope, and older members here, I hope that one is not left alone too soon. But please remember that you need a lot of more compassion, a higher incremental sense of levels of compassion needed to offer to a single old person who is left behind is much higher and much harder. And that is when your sensitivity will be put to test. And I urge every one of you to remember that anyone can be left alone at any point of time, and it wouldn't be wonderful if it's when you're old. And that's when you need the young the very most. And with those words, I would like to close today. Thank you very much, Carista Foundation, for giving me this wonderful opportunity of an exchange on a topic that of late has been very close to my heart. Because only when adversity hits you, do you learn to think deep. Thank you.